The sound of people laughing, the bright glow of a neon sign, and the gentle sound of a bartender sliding a cold beer across a shiny wooden bar. That was Cheers, a place where strangers turned into friends. Love stories got tangled up in funny ways, and an awkward smart guy named Frasier Crane showed up with a clipboard and big words. It was feel-good TV, and for lots of people it was an escape. But behind all the laughing, behind the perfectly timed jokes and the touching moments, there were real people with complicated lives. Those complicated lives sometimes crashed into each other, and when they did, things weren't as neat as a sitcom ending. In that messy behind-the-scenes world is one of the juiciest TV stories ever. For years, fans talked about Kelsey Grammer and a supposedly most hated co-star from the Cheers cast. Did Grammer finally speak up about that person? What really went down? Is the story worse than what the headlines say? Get comfortable. We're diving in. Cheers started in 1982, the way it felt so natural and cozy. The fast and clever conversations and the kind characters all made viewers think the bar was like a second home. Sam Malone, Diane Chambers, Norm, Carla, Coach, Woody. Each character felt real, like they'd been living these lives for years. The writers nailed the perfect mix of comedy timing, real emotions, and making viewers care about people who spent most episodes chatting in a bar. From one point of view, it looks like everything was perfect. In reality, TV sets are workplaces full of stress, tight schedules, tough decisions about creative stuff, and big personalities with real complaints. It's almost impossible to spend hundreds of hours with the same group of people without having some problems. Kelsey Grammer first showed up on Cheers in 1984 as Dr. Frasier Crane, a snobbish but kind of sweet psychiatrist who tried to analyze a bar full of people who honestly didn't want to be analyzed in public. He was brought in to mess up Sam and Diane's relationship. He was only supposed to stick around for a little while, but then Frasier won over the audience. Grammer's way of talking, careful, a little fancy, and funny, made people remember the character. He went from a small role to an important member of the main cast. When Cheers ended, Frasier had already become famous in his own way, setting things up for Frasier, the spin-off show, which became one of TV's longest-running hits. But getting from guest star to main character meant Grammer had to fit into a cast that already had their groove, and that groove is a delicate thing. New moves risked messing things up. New voices felt like changing the beat. That's the background for the drama at the heart of this story. The person most often talked about in crew and cast memories is Shelley Long, the actress who played Diane Chambers. Diane was the polished, educated opposite of Sam's easy charm. Polished, picky, and sometimes annoying. A perfect comedy match. Shelley played Diane with smarts and a real focus on details that helped the show a lot. But acting, especially on a sitcom filmed in front of live audiences with tight time limits, is partly about working together and partly about being precise. Shelley's commitment to the script and to getting the character just right meant that rehearsals could sometimes run long, taking the cast away from the fast pace that makes jokes land right. In his thoughts, looking back, Grammer mentioned this pattern. Shelley's way of working often demanded a deeper, sometimes slower digging into why characters do what they do and how to say the lines. To some co-workers, this felt needed and helpful. To others, it hurt the speed needed to keep the show's timing sharp. Being talented and being difficult aren't opposites. Many artists do amazing work while being hard to work with. Shelley Long was often called brilliant, but demanding. That mix makes other people both admire you and get frustrated with you at the same time. What's interesting about Grammer's memories, whether through interviews or in his book, is how careful he is. He doesn't throw around accusations. He gives the full picture. He remembers the small human stuff, missed lunches, uncomfortable silences, times when they argued about lines until everyone was exhausted. He says Shelley made Diane feel real. He also admits the process could be draining for a cast that needed to keep up the pace and stay flexible with the comedy. He wasn't trying to trash her. He was explaining the situation, a new performer trying to find his spot in a room where personalities had already found their places. Grammer's tone isn't about getting revenge. It's more about thinking back. And when you think back, things get complicated. Instead of just saying someone was hated by everyone, he paints a more complex picture. Someone important to the show. Someone whose ways of working wore down the energy on set. When Shelley Long left Cheers, officially to try movie roles and to spend time with her family, the cast and crew felt the change right away. Diane Chambers was a driving force in how the early show worked. Her leaving created obvious gaps in the story. The show changed direction. New characters came in. The humor shifted into new areas. For Kelsey Grammer, her leaving was, in a practical way, a chance. Writers gave more scenes to Frasier, and his funny possibilities grew. What looked like a disaster for the show became a kind of fresh start for his career, a path that would eventually give him his own series, and a level of success he might not have gotten otherwise. Like with so many careers, timing is everything. Shelley's exit and Grammer's rise are connected in the weird, random logic of TV history. Endings are often new beginnings, and the other way around. When Shelley Long announced she was leaving Cheers after season 5, it was a huge TV bombshell. Imagine being one of the highest-rated shows in America, loved by critics and viewers, and suddenly losing one of your two main characters. For NBC executives, it was total panic. For the cast, it was both a relief and a huge question mark. Kelsey Grammer remembers in his book, So Far, that the news hit with a mix of shock and acceptance. Everyone had felt the pressure of Shelley's perfectionism on set, but they also knew Diane Chambers was a key part of the show's identity. Diane wasn't just another waitress. She was the educated opposite to Sam Malone's regular guy charm. Without her, the worry was that Cheers might lose its special touch. Ted Danson admitted years later that he thought the show might not make it. He said, "You can't just rip out half of the heart of a sitcom and expect it to keep beating." But producers Glenn and Les Charles thought differently. They saw Long's leaving as a chance to refresh the show and take it in a new direction. Enter Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe, the ambitious but anxious bar manager. Her arrival in season 6 was a game-changer. Unlike Diane, Rebecca wasn't a brainy match for Sam. She was a vulnerable career woman trying to prove herself. That change opened up completely new storylines and funny moments. For Kelsey Grammer, this was a golden opportunity. With Shelley gone, there was more room for side characters like Frasier to stand out. Writers leaned into his pompous psychiatrist personality, giving him more screen time and building his relationship with Lilith Sternin, played by Bebe Neuwirth. Fans loved the weird couple, and what started as a repeating joke turned into one of the most memorable sitcom marriages ever. Behind the scenes, the set supposedly became more chill. Without Shelley's constant questioning of scripts and rehearsals, the mood got lighter. Rhea Perlman described the change as like taking a deep breath after holding it for 5 years. George Wendt agreed, saying that the new energy gave everyone a chance to play around more freely. And yet, even while feeling relieved, nobody denied Shelley's impact. Kelsey Grammer himself has often said that without Diane Chambers setting the early tone, Cheers wouldn't have had the depth to last for 11 seasons. He saw the change as bittersweet, losing someone who made life harder on set, but who also made the material better in ways that couldn't be replaced. An important part of this story that can't be ignored is Grammer's own life away from the camera. He carried a lot of personal pain and long-term struggles. Losses, trauma, and fights with addiction shaped him during the time he was building his public career. That background is important because how people react to criticism or feeling attacked is always affected by what's going on inside them. When you're emotionally drained, a comment that might have been brushed off on a good day can feel devastating. Grammer's book is careful and honest about these struggles. He doesn't try to use them as excuses. Instead, he lays them out as the conditions he was living in. In those conditions, personal conflicts take on a different feel. The point isn't about deciding who's to blame. It's about understanding how layers of personal pain and work pressure can turn small moments into bigger stories. How did one memory turn into the claim that a star was most hated? Partly because stories get simplified as they spread. Tabloids and clickbait sites prefer simple stories. A story about someone being difficult turns into cast hated her. Add in the natural human love of drama, and the rumor mill picks up speed. There's also the way memory works. When you ask someone about a certain time period, they remember the most emotional moments, and these are often the moments that involved fights. Over time, telling the story again and again squeezes out the details into shorthand. Someone who is difficult to work with becomes hated. That's not a moral judgment of anyone. It's just how gossip works. When you put together what Grammer has said across interviews and his book, a clearer, less dramatic version